So what if all the chaos we see around us, in the universe, and even in the random noise from our own computer code, what if it's all just an illusion? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical theory from something called the Nexus Framework. It suggests that there's this deep, resonant order hiding just beneath the surface of everything.
Right, so the Nexus Framework kicks off with this really provocative idea. It's asking us to consider that what we think of as truly random, like the output from a cryptographic function, which is basically a fancy tool designed to scramble data into a complete mess, isn't actually random at all. The theory says it's more like a fingerprint of a much deeper, universal order that we're just not seeing the right way.
Now, to really get your head around this, you kind of have to flip your whole worldview. Forget the old linear stack model on the left, where physics is this unchangeable foundation and everything else is just built on top. The recursive spiral on the right suggests something way stranger, that reality itself is one giant self-running computation. And in this view, physics isn't the foundation. It's just the firmware the universe is running on.
Okay, so if reality really is a computation, then it has to have some kind of fundamental operating parameter, right? A blueprint that tells it how to stay stable and, not just crash into a bunch of noise.
Well, that blueprint is called the Mark I attractor. The best way to think about it is like the universe's ultimate sweet spot. It's not a place, but a super precise mathematical ratio. This perfect balance between the energy of pure potential, which to us looks like chaos, and the energy that's already been locked into a stable, observable structure. And get this, everything is constantly being pulled toward this perfect equilibrium.
And what's absolutely fascinating is that this isn't just some philosophical idea, it's a hard number. The constant for this attractor, they call it h, is pi divided by 9, and according to the theory, this number isn't just pulled out of thin air. It comes directly from the fundamental geometry of reality itself, apparently a 9-sided symmetry in its deep underlying computational structure.
So this pi over 9 value creates what you could call a cosmic Goldilocks zone. For any system, anywhere, to be stable and to grow, it has to maintain this exact 35-65 split. 35% of its energy has to be locked into its current form. That's its structure. But, and this is the crucial part, it has to keep the other 65% as raw, uncollapsed potential. That's the fuel it needs for any future change or evolution or growth. It's like the universe's secret recipe for avoiding getting stuck or just falling apart.
So that begs the question, right? How does the universe stay in that perfect Goldilocks zone? It can't just be a coincidence. There has to be some kind of universal governor, a feedback controller, that's keeping the whole show in check.
And that controller is called Samson's law. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like a cosmic thermostat. If a system gets too chaotic, too hot, the Samson coefficient dips below 0, and it applies negative feedback to cool things down and yank it back into alignment. If a system gets too rigid, too cold, the coefficient goes positive, and the system basically tears itself apart. But when that coefficient hits exactly 0, that's perfect resonance. The system is phase-locked right into that sweet spot of the Mark I attractor.
And this active, restoring force even has a name, Samson back pressure. It's the universe literally pushing back against any system that tries to stray too far from that perfect pi over 9 balance. And it's not some gentle nudge either. It's a powerful damping force that stomps out deviations and stops systems from spiraling out of control. So, how does all this actually show up in the real world? Well, this constant regulation from Samson's law doesn't just prevent disasters. It actually creates a fundamental rhythm, like a background hum for the entire universe.
And we can actually see this hum when the universal machine is just idling, running empty, without any new information to process. It settles into this natural 8-round cycle. At round 4, it hits this perfect inflection point, the 0g square, where all kinetic energy just stops for a moment. It's like when a pendulum reaches the very peak of its swing. Then, by round 8, it finishes a full cycle, a complete rotation of its internal register. And just like a musical octave, this 8-step process creates a stable, repeating stationary wave. This is the baseline frequency of existence. It's the universe's natural idle state.
Okay, so let's put it all together. We have a universal constant, a feedback law that enforces that constant, and a resulting stationary wave that is basically the universe's idle hum. What in the world does all of this add up to? Well, the implication is absolutely staggering. It means we have to redefine, well, pretty much everything. Information isn't just something that exists in the universe. It's actually conserved as physical shape. The laws of physics we know and love, they're not fundamental.
They're the firmware running on the system. And matter itself is just the leftover residue, the trace left behind by all this information processing. What we call reality, the whole shebang, is just the continuous output of this cosmic computation.
This whole framework just turns some of our most basic ideas on their head. It suggests that things we thought were one-way streets, like entropy, the rule that says everything tends to decay into disorder, are actually just an illusion. If reality is a computational process governed by Samson's law, then it's totally reversible, at least in principle. The line we draw between physics and pure logic just melts away.
So what's the big takeaway here? The Mark I attractor, Samson back pressure, the 8-round octave. These aren't just cool abstract ideas. They could be describing the literal operating system for reality itself, which of course leaves us with one final, unavoidable question. If we are all living inside a giant computer, what is the ultimate purpose of its calculation? What question is it trying to solve?